So I think at Genpact we've built a disruptive culture or a challenger mindset through exactly that, really thinking about it as a mindset versus a campaign culture. So it's something that's embedded within the psyche of our teams is in order to create a culture to take risks. We try and create an agile environment for our teams to take decisions. We try and challenge conventional thinking and encourage independent thinking so that people are not necessarily reading through a playbook or doing traditional methods of marketing, but are prepared to take bold and brave decisions. I think it's important to build always on marketing engagement because of your audience, really. I don't think it works if you build a campaign by campaign cycle. I think your audience will tell you and the data will tell you that they don't care for your campaign timeframes, to be honest. I think there's an audience that's out there. They engage through multiple channels. Typically in your buying cycle it's relevant all year round and into the next year. So in the cycle that we're in and trying to engage our audience, we have to think about doing it on a long-term basis. We have to think about meeting them where they are in the market, and we have to think about building programs and tactics that enable them to access our organisation in multiple ways at multiple points throughout the year. So I think there's never been a better time for marketeers to look at data and to try and to use data to make the case or to provide or to show value. I think at the same time it's difficult for some of the data points to be pulled together, if you like, into coherent insight at the moment. So there's a lot of coordination, I think, needed in terms of what is the real meaningful data for the business. But I think the opportunity that is there in terms of the data available, the platforms available, the opportunity to collapse data into one area and then for marketeers to drive insight from it is certainly there. I think you see a challenge with marketeers trying to create the time and the space to look at it and then interpret the insights back into the organisation. The success that sort of the data-driven approach has given us is that, one, I think it makes a lot more accountable as a marketing function. There's real data behind things, so I think there's the ability to communicate with the business in a very different way, to show real data in real time in terms of the impact of marketing. I think the other thing that's allowed us to do is for our marketeers to become smarter, really. They're able to access data, they're able to think differently, they're able to look at data points and connect things that they weren't able to do before, and that can only really optimise what we're trying to do in market. The way that we've looked at sort of being smarter with budgets is on a few areas, really. One is to adopt that challenger mindset. It's not to be defensive around your budget, but it's to recognise that you are a challenger or a challenger budget, so therefore you have to think like one. That's really about creating that mindset amongst the team, that they have to make choices, they have to be very targeted, they have to be different in what we're trying to do versus competition, for example. The other one would be to integrate as much as possible, to make your channels and your budget work hard across programs versus short cycle campaigns, to build programmatic activity in market and integrate as many channels as possible to get best value out of your investments. And then I think the third one is then to optimise like crazy. I think especially in B2B marketing, there's a real opportunity to challenge some of the conventional wisdom, challenge some of the typical narrative, especially in places like automated sales, lead generation, etc. So I think to be bold and to encourage your teams to disrupt, to challenge, to ask why, to think differently has really served us well going forward and allowed us to outperform some of our typical competitors. The second one would be to start to be data-driven. So as much as possible and as early as possible to start to look at data, collapse as much as you can into one platform, to look at, to create a culture within your teams of looking at data, trying to drive insights. It will never be perfect, but just trying to drive that back into the model. What we try and think about is, can we make our marketing instinctive at Genpact? How can we allow our teams to see the outcomes of their activities and then to think differently about them and then to use data right back into our model?